Hey everybody, I've apparently come up to the busiest place on the Blue Ridge Parkway to answer questions about these mirrors on my bike. I keep getting interrupted, so hopefully the editing on this isn't a nightmare. The mirrors that I have on here are Stadium bar-end mirrors, and these are actually, if I'm not mistaken, these are the oldest motorcycle accessory you can actually buy. These have been in production since the 1930s by two different companies. Stadium was a company that just sold all kinds of things, and one of the things they happened to sell was these bar-end mirrors. And they made them up into the mid-70s or so, and then they just kind of dropped them from their line. As British bikes kind of waned in popularity and went under, demand for these mirrors also went away as well. But there was still a demand, and so another company called Halcyon made arrangements with Stadium to produce these mirrors. And so they've made them for the last 40 years or so. But they had a problem with keeping them in stock because there's not a huge demand for these. So they kind of made them in runs and they would just run out. And there a large period of time would go by before people could buy them again. Recently, within the last couple of years, Stadium has reintroduced these in their lineup. So you can buy them pretty readily. The problem is trying to buy them for this bike. Hitchcock's is one of the distributors for them. And if you look on their website, they make a model for the Interceptor, the 350J platform, and the Meteor 650, but not any for the Continental GT 650. They make them for the 535, but not the 650. If I pull up the Universal model, you'll actually see that it says that these don't fit this bike. There's actually a no as to fitment. And the reason for that is because of the bar end weight that is inside the handlebar of these bikes. You have to remove this in order to fit these mirrors onto the bike. And it's actually pretty simple to get them out, but it's a matter of knowing what to do. So I've seen people taking hammers and chisels to these things and removing the end cap, trying to knock them out from the other side. You don't have to do that. If I pull in close and look at this thing and point out a few things, you'll see what you have to do. So I'm going to remove the bar end cap for demonstration purposes here. And this is what will be inside the handlebar. Okay, so you can see about 3/4 of an inch up the weight. There's a little tab right there. There's one on the top, there's one on the bottom. And you need to depress those to slide this thing out. The mirrors that mount directly to the bar end, or the weight, like the ones for the Interceptor and the other models, don't work on here because this weight actually spins inside the bar. So if you tried to bolt those up, your mirror would just spin around. So you have to remove this and use the universal mount with the expansion bolt inside the handlebar. So to get this out, you can see how far up it is. If I move the camera in close, I can slide this throttle grip up enough that you can actually see the indentation where this tab is. So if I slide this up and we look right here, you can see that little hole that I'm uncovering underneath the throttle. So what you have to do is you have to undo the 3 screws of the throttle housing. You don't have to take them all the way out, just loosen them so you can separate the 2 pieces, because this is on a locating pin. You want to separate those 2 pieces and slide it up so you can get to those holes. Once you have access to those holes, just take a punch or whatever and just stick it in there and depress these little tabs. You just want to depress the little tabs right here, top and bottom. And so if I put this back on, this is how I did it. I left this on, but screwed in, about that much or so, just so I'd have something to get a hold of. Want to depress the top and pull, and it'll unseat that from the hole. Then do it from the bottom side again, and then you'll be able to pull it all the way out. Moving on to the left side, to get the weight out, all you have to do is grab a hold of the end of the grip and just peel it back until you can see those locating holes. At that point, you can go ahead and stick in your punch or whatever you're using and move to the bottom and then start wiggling it out. Now you'll need 3 different tools to install these. You'll need a 5 and a 6mm hex wrench and a 10mm spanner. Now what you want to do is slide the entire assembly inside the handlebar and start tightening down this bolt right here. This will expand the expansion bolt, and you just want to get it good and snug where you can still move it and leave it alone. Do the same thing to the other side. Once you've got them both in place, start leveling them how you want them, angling them how you want them. Do you want them level? Do you want them angled down? You'll have to play with it a little bit to see where you want it. And once you get it in position, then go ahead and lock those down. Now at the front end, there is a 6mm Allen here, and this tightens this motion down. So now that you've got this taken care of, we're going to work on this. And they come pretty loose, but you want to tighten them up all the way. You don't have to crank it down. Tighten it up to where they won't move, where they will not move to the next position. And then start backing it out, and so that it just barely clears what it needs to clear and move to the next position. That'll keep the mirror from vibrating, because if this is set too loose, your mirror will vibrate and everything will be buzzy inside your mirror. So determine how you want that set, and once you do, then we can move on to the mirror head itself. Now the mirror head itself does offer quite a range of motion. You can see that it's off-centered. It's not, the bolt isn't directly in the center. So you can spin this around and actually make it stick out farther. You can make it higher, lower, things like that. I've kind of got mine low and inset is what I've got mine set at. So you want to take a 10mm spanner with you and take the bike for a ride at that point and start playing with the mirrors and get them to where you'd like them, roughly. Stop, get off the bike, tighten this down on both sides, then get on the bike and go for another ride. And see if you need to make little incremental adjustments. Stop again, pull out your wrench, make your adjustment, try it again. And once you've done that, these no longer have to be adjusted. So every time I flip them in and out, the angle that they're aimed at does not change. It stays right where it needs to be. I even I stuck a helmet on there all the time. And from other bikes, and even this bike itself, when it had the stock mirrors on, if I put the helmet on the mirror, every time I took it off, put the helmet on, got on the bike, the mirror needed to be adjusted. These don't, they stay in place. And that's one of the cool features of it. Now I knew I was pretty set on going with this style of mirror when I bought the bike. The stock mirrors were actually pretty good. They looked good and they worked well, but I knew I wanted to lower the front end of the bike down, and these worked out really well. And I went with these over the clamp-on style that you normally see for the GTs, because these have a more vintage, aesthetic, and that's kind of the aesthetic I was going for. Because like even the lights and the mirrors or the turn signals are actually kind of period correct. They look like something that you would get in the late 60s, early 70s on a bike. And so I wanted to go with that aesthetic. And so that's why I wanted to go with these over the more modern looking clamp-on style. Now if you go to Hitchcock's website, you'll also find these little blanking screws here that fit where your old mirrors used to be. I don't have one, actually I do and I don't. The clamp on this side, you can actually flip it upside down and you don't have to worry about that hole being there. I do have the screw stuck in it, but it is flipped upside down. As you can see there is no hole, it's on the bottom. So you don't have to worry about that one. So hopefully that answers everybody's questions about these mirrors and why I went with those and what it takes to actually put these on. They're not direct bolt-ons. And I'm going to put links below to everything that I've talked about in the video. The Interceptor mirrors, the Meteor and Classic mirrors, the Halcyon mirrors. There's actually a rectangular version you can get. I went with round just to kind of keep everything round. So hopefully you guys got something out of that, and I will catch you guys next time. Take care. Sorry for all the edits. This short little video has actually ended up taking almost 4 hours to film, just due to the amount of traffic I've had to deal with. Hey everybody, I've been getting a lot of questions about the stadium bar end mirrors that I'm using on the bike. Then once you've got that done, it's time to move on to the 10mm. You have to realize this is something that doesn't actually bolt up to the bike. You have to there's some caveats there. And trying to explain that in comment sections would make a comment, a wall of text, and I'm trying to avoid that. Time out, got cars going by. Point out what I'm going to be talking about. There are two, damn it, loose enough to allow these to move. Items being in stock or not, and I'm going to get interrupted again. Time out.